Thursday, July the 17th. We're live to you from the FMDQ studios here in Lagos. This is Money Moves. I am Bosun Omofaye.
And I am Melissa Enoch. Welcome, everyone, to the program.
Now, let's get started, as always, with our news now. Of course, more than 10 billion shares of First Holding Company were traded off the floor of the Nigerian exchange market on Wednesday. Of course, the transaction, worth nearly 325 billion naira, reportedly climaxes a deal with Oba Otudeko, a former chairman of First Bank of Nigeria and a former majority shareholder of the company. Sources said the deal was reached to end the era of huge non-performing loans that troubled Nigeria's oldest financial institution. The shares of First Holding Company climbed 10% on Wednesday on the back of that deal. In another headline news, France and Ghana are advancing plans to restructure $2.5 billion sovereign bilateral loans. News reports said the deal was aimed at supporting Ghana's economic recovery, job creation, and long-term development. France says it has invested $2.5 billion in Ghana, beg your pardon, in West Africa's second biggest economy, generating more than 50,000 jobs in that country and across sectors. France says it's looking to the agreement to help Ghana regain fiscal space and stimulate long-term growth. An International Monetary Fund has warned Ethiopia that its foreign exchange liberalization program is faltering. According to the IMF, the surge in parallel market premium seen on the birr at 17% in the month of May was a red flag. The IMF says the gap signals renewed pressure on Ethiopia's financial system and warns that the setback could derail the second phase of the country's homegrown economic growth agenda and dent investor confidence. Ethiopia introduced a market clearing exchange rate system back in July of 2024. Now, Melissa is standing by for more on News Now. Melissa?
Yes, indeed, Bosun. In market news, the FMD Securities Exchange on Thursday announced the approval for the quotation of 16.33 billion naira Series 1 and 83.67 billion Series 2 commercial paper of unlisted Providence Bank Limited. The short-term borrowing papers were issued under the bank's 100 billion naira issuance program. In corporate news, Access Core Nigeria has reaffirmed its long-term strategic blueprint anchored on a deliberate, structured progression to scale, optimize, and sustain. In a statement issued on Wednesday, the NGX-listed group says its roadmap has driven the aggressive expansion across Africa and into key global markets. The acting group CEO, Bolaji Agbade, says that the approach was clear: to scale first through strategic expansion, optimized via consolidation and operational efficiency, which she says requires considerable amount of funding. Illovo Sugar, listed on the Malawi Stock Exchange, has announced to the shareholders plans to enter into a $45 million loan agreement with Sukoma Holdings Limited. The loan deal has an option of a further $15 million. The loan is not interest-bearing, aside the return that only becomes payable if the sugar company pays any dividend or distributes any other interest. And finally, on News Now this Thursday, the finance ministers of the G20 economic bloc are meeting today in South Africa, which is hosting the presidency of the group. Let's now listen to excerpts from the presentation by the South African finance minister and the president of the World Bank.
Since its launch in 2017, the Compact for Africa has grown into a dynamic initiative that has mobilized over $191 million in private capital, $191 million in private capital, supported by the development of bankable projects and improved access to services for over 13.5 million people. It has also fostered a strong peer learning network among participating countries, supported by institutions like the African Center for Economic Research, and provided a structured framework for reform through regular monitoring and technical assistance.
Because the private sector cannot succeed on its own, it needs the right conditions to thrive, conditions that don't just arise by chance. And I think what we bring is something that can help uniquely in making that happen, because we operate across a three-set continuum. We combine public finance with expertise and private sector support to help countries move from planning to implementation, and from implementation to action.
And that is your news now on Money Moves. I am Melissa Enoch. Our markets coverage is up next after the break. Stand by, everyone.
Welcome back to Money Moves, everyone. Let's get on with the rest of the program. And this is how the market looks like today. Of course, here from the ticker tape floor are the FMDQ with the market here at FMDQ. The ticker tape showing today's trading numbers above my head. I'm sure you can see that. But let's move on quickly to the equities market, with the Nigerian NGX climbing another 1.02%. Today on the back of the banking sector. Some of the news coming through. The index crossed the 130,000 for the first time today, Thursday, the first trading session of the week. We also got news just within the last hour that UBA, one of the listed commercial bank, says is raising about 3.156 billion right issues, floating that on the market at 15 naira per share. There was no date as to when that right issue will open to existing shareholders of UBA, but the market's news says an application has been filed with the SEC and the Nigerian Exchange to ensure that this come through. That right issue is coming at 1 new shares for 13 shares already held by every shareholder of UBA. Moving out of the Nigerian market, the EGX is finishing 1.04% today. Very positive. The market closes Thursday at the Cairo market, so we'll see the market reopens on Sunday. We'll bring you all the data from Cairo market on Monday when the show resumes. In South Africa, the biggest exchange on the continent, the index finished off, the All Share Index, about 5% better today. In Nairobi, the market was 19 basis points better. Broadly speaking, across Africa, it was a very positive Thursday. Let's move on and talk about the 10-year paper across those 5 countries in Africa, where we look at their bonds: South Africa, Nigeria, Morocco, Mauritius, and Kenya. Of course, you can see the pressure still piling on South Africa's 10-year paper, 9.945%. That's 0.66% because of the trade tariff issues with the United States. Investors are a little bit concerned. Let's take that out of the way and move into currencies. The Naira was trading at 1,531.03 to the US dollars at the time we took this data, around 13:13 GMT. That's 0.26%. The CFA franc in West Africa also tanked slightly, 0.57% on the dollar, 566.20, as the US dollar itself trying to make a bit of a comeback. The rand trading 17.89 to the USD, 0.39%. Those are some of the currency data. You can see the rest on the screen. Let's move into the oil market. President Trump now walking back from the threat that he was going to sack the U.S. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. On one hand, the market was shaking on that news. Goldman Sachs also says the years of U.S. oil boom output is over. That's what that investment banking giant spoke about also over the last 24 hours. Then, of course, the market also today digested those drone attacks on the Kurdistan oil fields in northern part of Iraq. All of that in play as we go to the fourth day, and you can see the price of Brent and WTI are gaining slightly. Of course, the US WTI gaining stronger than the London Brent, 1.11%. Let's move on to to commodities and look at gold prices. And again, the market also trying to see how the downplaying of the threat by President Trump to axe the U.S. Fed chairman is into play. All gold prices decelerated 1.07%. Of course, the price is moving a little bit in and out of a positive range, 3,323 as at the time we came on air. And of course, you see copper prices down by 0.5%, $5.49 below the 555 where we were late on Wednesday evening. And finally, let me finish up with the soft commodities. And that's I'm going straight to coffee prices, 0.86%, now trading around 305.80. The cocoa prices still got its own issues to deal with, 4.15%, because demand is faltering across some of the biggest consumer markets for grinding cocoa around the world, Europe, as well as in parts of Asia. So we're seeing cocoa prices now at one of its lowest level since we started 2025, $7,322 per metric ton. A lot of pressure. Then see sugar at the bottom of the graph you're looking at, 1.51% to the upside. That's about $16.81. And that's about it on the market. Just to sum up today's edition of Your Money Moves. I am Boston Amafai, live here at the FMDQ trading floor. And of course, with the rest of the team, we say thank you for watching the show. We'll be back tomorrow. Bye for now.